Yamamoto Akari would always remember that dreadful day where she first experienced her very first heartbreak in front of other people. It happened 2 weeks before their scheduled graduation. The class of 4A is having a class party of their own in a small resort a few minutes' drive from their school to somehow cherish the remaining days of being together. As usual, Akari was found standing next to her 3-month boyfriend and St. Therese High's most popular heartthrob, Kato Renji, along with his set of cool friends that other girls are so dying to have. For Akari, she felt as if she was some kind of a heroine in a romance book that she has read in the past. A nerd girl dating the most popular guy in school, just like in any romance book lover's dream. And at that moment, where Renji first showed interest to an introverted girl such as herself, she momentarily believed that dreams, no matter how long you could accomplish it, do come true. But little did this naive girl know that in that exact moment where she thought she could create one last set of beautiful memories together with the person she truly loved and cared about before they graduate in high school, Akari's dreams would instantly be crushed into tiny little pieces once she knows the truth behind Renji's intentions in dating her. It happens so fast. The heartbreak, that is. One moment she was having fun, as if she was having the time of her life. Then the next thing she knew was that she was running away from that awful scene with tears continuously running through her cheeks. When all was drunk after almost finishing all the drinks that some of the rich kids of their section purchased, some of Akari's classmates went for the karaoke machine that they have rented for the day. A blonde guy was about to choose a song to sing when someone snatched the mic away from him at an incredible speed. Someone who happens to be Jessica Thompson, the meanest of the girls that Akari encountered in St. Therese Academy. "Listen, all of you!" She started bellowing on the mic, her voice being tipsy a bit. Jessica immediately caught everyone's attention, even the ones who are staying on the next cottage that they are not acquainted with. But that did not stop Jessica from doing what she hoped to do for the past 3 months. She had already withheld this for so long, and now she wouldn't let this once-in-a-lifetime chance slip away through her fingers. "Before this day ends, I want to tell you a secret. Something that I've been keeping for so long. 3 months to be exact," she smirked, and suddenly snapped her head to look directly at the girl she considered as her enemy. Akari almost flinched with this sudden action. "Hey, stop that!" One guy appeared out of the blue and tried to snatch the mic away from her, as if he knows what this girl is up to. However, Jessica was fast enough to dodge his hand and proceeded with what she's planning to do all this time. "You know what Akari and Renji's relationship is about?" she continued, smirking in the girl's direction. That made Akari's lips parted in astonishment and confusion as well. She doesn't have a clue what she's about to say, but she already has a bad feeling about this. "It's nothing but a ruse, a fake. All but a product of a bet that we've planned 3 months ago." Jessica ended her statement with a sharp, throaty chuckle, one that felt good for her, but not for Akari. The latter stood there in shock, not knowing what to do at this moment. Jessica could sometimes be a pain in her neck, she thought, but is she also the type where she has to lie just to get what she wants? Akari was already aware that Jessica is busy batting her eyes at her boyfriend as if she could snatch him away from her anytime soon. But she didn't think Jessica could do something as horrible as this. This is all a lie. Was it? That's what Akari wants to believe. But the moment she turned around to face her boyfriend, it was then when she instantly felt her world torn apart. "Jessica, stop it already!" That same guy tried again for the second time to snatch the microphone away from the girl, but failed once again. "And you know what's even funny?" she continued, making sure everyone hears what she is about to say. "The fact that Renji is mine, but I need to wait for goddamn hours just to be with him. Because I know he was busy fulfilling the bet that we have planned." She said this with her face showing hurt and remorse at the same time. "But now, since the 3-month bet is up, I think it's the perfect time to call it quits, right, honey?" Now Jessica is grinning in Renji's direction, making sure that Akari was able to see it. "I said stop it!" That guy was finally successful snatching the mic away from the tipsy girl, looking irritated as ever. "What, Jin? Don't act as if you're not a part of this gamble." Jessica lashed out at the guy who stole the mic away from her phone. "Jin? Ishida Jin? Renji's best friend?" Akari's eyes, though it started to sting by now, kept on shifting from Jessica's place, then to Renji's, then back at the girl. Akari is fully aware of Jessica's feelings for her boyfriend. But all the things she said just now can't be true. right? Having mustered some courage, Akari swiftly turned to look at Renji's face, and said this with all her might. Is it true? All the things that we have right now are nothing but a product of your childish games? Renji kept silent, not knowing how to answer the girl. It then occurred to Akari the painful truth, that Jessica is not lying indeed. Answer me! But she still demanded to hear the truth from this guy, whom she let inside her heart willingly. The people around them started throwing a sympathetic look in her direction, and she hated IT Renji, though a jerk in nature, deemed that Akari deserves to know the whole truth. So he finally had the guts to look at the hurting girl and answered her question. Yes, it's all true. But he was then interrupted with a quick slap on his right cheek. I knew I shouldn't have trusted you! Akari couldn't hold it any longer. Feeling that her tears would spill any time soon, she pushed her thick-framed glasses upwards and decided to run away from here and go home as soon as possible, then let this jerk and the audience see her crying like an idiot. She had already shown this guy her weakness. Renji didn't deserve to see her crying over him. What a loser! She heard Jessica's minions snicker at her, but she only ignored it and left the place. However, that night though, she almost spent the night crying for that bastard who literally crushed her heart. Renji was Akari's first love, and the first guy whom she granted rare access to enter her introverted life. And for what? Hurting her feelings? Letting her know that the world is indeed a cruel place for introverts like her? Akari blew her nose using a tissue for the last time before she threw it in the nearest trash bin and grabbed for her phone. She then started on her mission in blocking her ex, changing her relationship status on Facebook, and deleting their photos in all of her social media accounts. It's a good thing, though, that they rarely take pictures every time they go on a date. But it also dawned upon her why Renji doesn't want to take a photo with her or tag him in any of their photos that she'll upload in her account. Slowly, all the things that confused her made sense to her now. Renji, you idiot! She cursed as she took one last look at her ex's candid photo while eating ice cream. Die, she sneered, finally deleting the last photo of him in her social media accounts. Now she learns her lesson of not posting too many photos. If you happen to break apart, you would have trouble deleting all of those things. Akari heaved a sigh of relief when she was done deleting their photos and looked at her surroundings. Now what would she do? Since she couldn't sleep anytime soon, Akari then decided to do the thing that she hasn't been doing since she started dating that bastard. She kept her introverted self to him and did everything that she can to change herself for her obviously extroverted boyfriend, whom everyone adores, that she forgot to be herself far longer than she thought. And now that they are over, she would have the freedom to go back to her old ways. A relieved smile slightly emerged from her lips when she was able to find the online community built for introverts like her, known as Introvert Nation. Without having second thoughts now, she immediately logged into her old account. Good thing she still remembers her password after 3 months of being on hiatus in this group. After her old online friends gathered and flooded her with greetings on the public shoutbox after she made her first appearance, she felt like posting a forum thread on the site, and so she did. Star Bunny, is love really hard for introverts like us? Soon enough, her thread was then flooded with different replies from different kinds of strangers, stating their opinions on the matter. After all, she was used to being known as one of the famous bloggers on this site before she went into hiatus. Akari was nonchalantly scrolling down some replies when someone caught her attention. Because unlike other people replying directly to the thread, his or hers, she can never be sure of the gender when someone was only using aliases or nicknames for their usernames, was in the form of a direct message. And unlike others, his or hers was not about imparting his or her knowledge about the subject, but a concerned message for her. I hope you are doing all right by now. You seem to be feeling down on your post, was what the message says. And when Akari scanned for the sender's name, it says, and she read it out loud. Codewave. Creator's thoughts. Atajans. Comment it and let me know. The following days of her life have been tough for Akari. After knowing the childish scheme that her ex-boyfriend and her rival have plotted against her, there was no way she could face Renji once again after the incident last night at the resort. And so, she did everything in her power to avoid these two people. And so far, she has been successful in that. There were times, however, that Akari can't help but feel crying over what her ex did to her. She willingly gave her love and trust completely to the guy, given he was her first love. But that did not do her any good. Good riddance. She almost gave her virginity to the jerk as well, if it weren't for her courage to push him away, the day when the bastard invited her over to stay at his house when his parents were away. And she was glad, knowing she actually did the right thing. Yet, unlike in the previous days, Akari slowly learned how to cope up with the pain brought to her by her first love. Whenever she feels down, she would seek her books company, rummaging through her bookshelf for those that she hasn't read yet, ever since she started to date her ex.
And if in case she was able to finish all those unread books in a week, she would surely see to it that she wouldn't let the day pass by without logging in to Introvert Nation, the site that she also seek comfort knowing that most strangers in the site, if not all of them, are having the same problems like hers, being introverts as she is. Then there would be one particular person whom she will always end up chatting with for the rest of the night, until she decides to go to sleep. A stranger whose name is hidden under his or her alias on the site. Codewave. Cyberbite. Hey, how did your day go? I hope it didn't really end up that bad. The moment she logged into her computer one Saturday night, 2 days before her graduation, Codewave's message was the first thing that popped up on her notifications. A smile crept upon her face as she typed in her reply. Starbunny. Hi, I'm more than okay right now. Thanks to your advice about letting go of these stupid feelings for that bastard, I don't need to cry over him anymore. Akari's finger immediately hit the send button, her message popping into their inbox. This may seem stupid, but Akari has grown rather comfortable with this stranger, to the point that she started sharing what had been bothering her lately. Through Codewave, she found the courage to vent out her frustrations towards her ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend, a thing that she can't do towards other people. It felt good to know someone out there, no matter how far away he or she was willing to listen to her problems without second thoughts. Aside from that, Codewave also has a way to make sense of complicated matters, another trait she likes from him or her. It did not take long before Codewave replied to her message. Cyberbite. Glad to hear you are completely okay right now. Your ex isn't worth your tears, so please stop crying for him. There are plenty of fishes on the sea, don't waste your life catching only one. Codewave's advice actually made the girl laugh for some reason. He or she sounds just like her mother if ever she'll try to vocalize the message that he or she is sending to her right now. Before Akari could reply, another message pops out, only to see Codewave sending a picture of a lake and people who went to do some fishing for the day.
Under the photo is his added statement. Cyberbite. Speaking of fish, I went fishing today with some acquaintances for the weekend. Look how many fishes are swarming on the lake. That's the literal description of what I said just now. It's just that we're on a lake, not on the sea. Akari can't help but laugh at the pun he or she intended on his or her last statement. That made her crack a laugh out of the blue. This stranger truly has some sense of humor within him or her, she thought. Akari also wishes that Codewave could send a photo of himself so that she could properly address him or her. She actually doesn't know whether the stranger is a boy or a girl, or what's his age bracket. Maybe, just maybe, she might be talking to an elderly man all this time. However, based on what he or she says, this doesn't seem like the wisdom of an elderly person, but more of a teenager's. Akari is too timid to ask for his or her photo or age, for she knows it would be rude of her to ask. To be fair, Akari also hadn't sent any pictures of her either. So in the end, Akari doesn't have a choice but let things be in their usual way, without meddling or something like that.
The next day finally came, which is exactly at the last day of March. It is time for Akari to graduate and finally be on her merry way without having to suffer seeing the faces of the people that she doesn't want to see every single day. It was the small details that she mostly remembered during their graduation. Akari was able to observe her mother's tears as she placed the medal around her neck after her teacher declared her as the class valedictorian for the academic year, or her father's smiling face as he watched Akari's mother place the medal on her. Akari also noticed the odd looks her ex-boyfriend Kato Renji was throwing at her, or the moving of his lips, like he had something to say to her. But Akari simply ignored it and sat back on her assigned seat. Though she had to witness his face, Akari could definitely say that her graduation still went well, as she expected. Creator's thoughts. Arte Jans. The day finally came where Akari decided to leave the house and go after the college of her choice that is located at the heart of Tokyo. She was originally rooting to go to Yansei State University, a local state university that is only a few walking distances away from her house. Thus, she listed it before as the first school of her choice, only because she was planning to be with her ex even after college. At that time she wrote it down. However, since she and Renji are not in good terms anymore, Akari immediately decided to change the list of the universities that she wanted to enroll to a few days before their scheduled graduation. 1 week after she marched on stage, the National Universal Test was held, an academic event in which Akari had prepared all her life. As a result, a month after the said exam, she got the results and saw herself being the second highest scorer, not bothering to look at the person who got the first place. And so, with that astonishing exam result, different schools from different cities had sent her application letters, persuading her to join their institution. However, among the schools that persuaded her, only one got her attention. A school that was not even on her list of universities that she wanted to apply to. Hirosaki University, the very well-known school in Tokyo, tagged as one of the prestigious universities which are very picky when it comes to admitting students in their institution. And she can't believe the school did invite her to be part of them as one of their scholars. This is good, she thought. She could be away from here like what she had been planning all along. Finally, another week has passed after she was able to pass the exam. It was time for her to move out of the house, find a cheap place to rent while she was studying in Tokyo, and also look for a part-time job to keep her alive during her stay. In short, she needed to go to Tokyo as soon as possible to know the ways of adult life. Her father, Mr. Yamamoto Haruki, who is a well-sought-after carpenter in their place, was in tears seeing her daughter all packed up and ready to leave. Despite his masculine and intimidating features, he was actually a soft-hearted person, especially when it comes to his family. Akari's mother, Mrs. Hayashi, Isabella, who was born and raised in the Philippines, but chose to marry here in Japan after meeting her father, was also in tears as well, seeing her daughter need to go away for college. In the first place, she was hesitant to send her daughter away to Tokyo. But she is also perfectly aware that her daughter is already old enough to decide for herself. And so she has no choice but to let her daughter go to the university of her choice, provided that she has a guaranteed scholarship in that particular school. Seeing that she already had her things with her, Akari turned to her parents. A big backpack strapped on her back and a small hand-carry bag clutched on both of her hands, which mostly contained her precious books that she plans to bring with her to Tokyo. "I'll be on my way now. I should leave early if I wanted to catch the first train going to Tokyo," Akari said in her gentle, meek voice. Her father, being an emotional man he was, suddenly pulled her daughter in a quick, tight hug that nearly surprised the girl. Finally, after pulling away, her father said, "Promise me you'll always look after yourself and stay away from danger as much as possible." "Okay?" Akari can't help but smile at her father. Though he's like this, Akari still loves him so much. "I will, father. Don't worry about me." "I am still reluctant for you to go to Tokyo, though," her father added. "We have a local college here. You know that, right?" "I know, but I changed my mind and instead decided to attend school in Tokyo. The more prestigious my school is, the more opportunities I will receive after I graduate college." She tried to reason out with her father, but Akari surely can't tell her parents that the main reason why she suddenly opted for a university in Tokyo is to actually stay away from her ex, since she kept their relationship a secret from them. "That's right. Your daughter is all grown up now, sweetie," her mother chimed in. "She can already live by herself." And that's why Akari loves her mother so much. She completely understands her and trusts in all of the decisions she makes. After one last goodbye, Akari left the place where she grew up and went to the train station to catch the early morning trip going to Tokyo. With the delays she experienced packing up her things, plus having to deal with emotional parents, Akari almost missed the train if it hadn't for her exceptional running skills in situations like this. She was able to slip herself in before the doors of the bullet train closed by themselves. Panting, Akari craned her head once she regained her strength after the adrenaline rush that possessed her earlier slowly faded. A triumphant smile immediately escaped her lips as soon as she spotted an empty seat next to an elderly man wearing a brown trench coat and brown leather hat. "Thank goodness I made it just in time," she said to herself and comfortably rested her back while her backpack was sitting on her lap and her hand-carry bag on the floor. Trying to find something to do to keep her from falling asleep on the trip, Akari decides to get a book from her hand-carry bag and starts reading the first book in the Percy Jackson series that she loved so much. Surely, this would be enough to heighten her senses all throughout the trip. "Percy Jackson, eh?" Huh? Did someone pay attention to the book that she's currently reading?
She slightly lifted her book and tried to peek through it and see who this person was who dared to interrupt her reading experience. But the moment she did that, her lips parted, her eyes almost went round, and the blood from her face had drained in an instant. For the guy she saw seated across her was none other than Ishida Jin, Kato Renji's best friend, and her former childhood friend as well. Creator's thoughts. Atejans. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Part of being a disadvantage when you are in a poor family is that you are fully aware that your parents won't support your college expenses, especially once you're in Tokyo and you are thousands of miles apart from your family. The first thing that Akari did upon arriving to Tokyo was to go to the local real estate agency to look for a cheap place to rent that the money she saved for the past few years from working part-time jobs back in Kyoto would suffice. If she will choose what room she prefers, she wants a room that faces south with lots of sunshine. An apartment room that is located on the second floor would also be nice to minimize the risk of having thieves and insects at night. And the most important thing to remember when looking for an apartment is if it is near the train station, bus stop, convenience store, etc. However, due to a shortage of budget, Akari has no choice but to go along with the cheapest apartment she could find that has nothing to do with all those qualities that she was looking for. Again, that's the disadvantage of being poor. With the hand carry bag she was holding onto and a big backpack strapped in her back, she now arrives at the only apartment that her savings could pay. The room she rented was on the first floor, where there isn't any sunshine at all because of the other building that is blocking its path. Once she inspects inside, the room is not facing south, with a worn-out wooden bed that has a thin mattress and no bed sheets at all. That would be the first thing on her list that she needs to buy once she finds a part-time job. She looks up as she hears loud footsteps above her, and soon discovers that the ceiling is a bit thin, even the walls, that you could literally hear what your neighbors are up to. At night, she could hear the couple occupying the room on her right making some crazy moaning noises, while in the morning, she could hear loud stomps of someone's foot, probably a kid's foot, above her at occasional times. On her third night here, she could hear it again. Those crazy noises, that is. Akari can't help but smack her hand with her right hand and mutters to herself, "It's just 4 years. 4 years to live in this hellhole," to keep her sanity intact. But that did not work, actually. So, the following morning, the almost sleepless girl decided to wake up at exactly 7 in the morning, prepared her breakfast, and tried to get things done as quickly as she can before setting off towards hunting for a part-time job just around the corner. Well, if there is one thing that Akari is lucky to have upon transferring here, it is the fact that she gets to live near what people call Business Avenue. Practically, it's where stores of different kinds were mostly sprawled around here and are arranged literally just a few walking distances away from one another. The sun was already up by the time she reached the said avenue. For today, Akari tried to wear semi-formal for her interviews by wearing a flowy beige dress with short sleeves and a pair of sandals with her glasses on. Behind her is where her small black-colored backpack was strapped on her shoulders. Yet, as she hops in and out from one store to another, inquiring if they have some vacant positions for part-timers like her, she almost instantly figured out that wearing a dress won't give her that much luck like she was hoping to have. Most stores are looking for full-timers, and if they did look for a part-timer, they wouldn't accept a student like her. By afternoon, Akari decided to give it a break when she happens to pass by at a coffee shop. Once she pushed the door inside and entered, the aroma of the freshly brewed coffee immediately filled her nostrils that could make anyone stay alert just by the smell of it. To her surprise, the store is currently packed with people her age who are somewhat busy having their chit-chats, either by groups or by pairs. It must have felt so good to have friends like that, she thought. This time, when the academic year officially opens, she makes a solemn oath to herself that she would at least try to make as many friends as she could. Akari isn't a coffee drinker, but after seeing some plain, affordable croissants displayed on the counter, she decided to buy some for her lunch. After spotting a vacant table near the window, she decided to occupy that chair with the bread in hand. The girl stared at her bread, lips quivering, as she complains to herself, "I am feeling so pathetic right now." She could have opted for that local college that is only a few distances from her home, yet she chose to acknowledge her pride, and instead went here to Tokyo, where she pretty much knew that living is quite expensive here. Akari sighed for like a millionth time already. She was about to take another bite out of the bread when she felt her phone suddenly make a short beep.
indicating that someone messaged her. Cyberbite. Hey, how's it going there? Her face lit up when she saw the username on the phone. With haste, she typed down her reply. Starbunny, I am feeling so pathetic right now. It did not take that long before she received a reply from her online buddy.
Cyberbite. Why? What happened? At that point, Akari began typing away all her frustrations about moving here, but leaving out the details of that couple next door. And somehow, it feels good for her to let it all out to a stranger whom she didn't even know if he is a guy or a girl, or haven't had the slightest idea what he or she looked like. After the frustrations had been washed away from her system, Akari saw the three-dot icon emerge from the screen, meaning he or she is typing his or her next reply. Codewave's next reply was super long, she thought, as she patiently waited for it to appear on her phone screen. It was also then that she caught a glimpse of the time on the upper left corner of the screen that says 3 in the afternoon. Oh boy, I gotta get going and find myself some part-time job, she said to herself. Akari started pulling her bag and strapped it right behind her once again when she finally got the message from the person she is conversing with on the other line. All things have their right time. Maybe, sooner or later, or a few seconds from now, you'll be able to find the perfect part-time job for you. Patience is the best policy. She couldn't help but smile upon seeing that message. Part of the reason was that Codewave purposefully mistranslated the last phrase to make her laugh, and it is a sweet gesture. But at the same time, she appreciates the thoughtfulness behind the message. As Akari stood up from where she was sitting and walked out of the store, she sighed and started down the path towards her next Target store when she saw a girl her age walking past her with long, olive-green hair. When she was just about to ignore her, the girl tapped her on the shoulder and then said, "Hey, you're a student, right? Are you looking for a part-time job right now?" Astonished, Akari bobbed her head up and down as her response to this stranger's question. "I just left this certain Maid cafe for personal reasons, so now they are currently vacant. Why don't you go ahead and try applying there?" The girl whispered, her eyes shifting from left to right as if she was afraid that someone might hear their conversation. She then straightens up, points to the nearby commercial building across the street, and raises her right hand. "There is a building over there, that's where I was working before. The headmistress is kind, and the salary is quite good. You don't need to work long hours." Her voice now sounds rather sketchy, like she is recruiting Akari in a syndicate. Hearing all of this, Akari can't help but ask her, "If the salary and the schedule were good, then why did you leave then?" "I said, I left there for personal reasons. It's up to you now if you're up for the challenge or not." The girl shrugs and starts to scurry away past Akari after their brief conversation. "Wait!" Akari was just about to stop her and ask a few more questions, but she was already nowhere in sight. What the hell was that all about? Looking at the building she pointed to earlier, Akari struggled with whether she should go there or not. The girl seems really sketchy, she says to herself, and the building does look the same. In the end, she agrees to apply there, if and only if not a single store around here won't accept her as their part-timer. But as minutes passed, and not a single store had accepted her, she only ended up seeing herself standing near the cutesy-designed door of that commercial building, sighing, before entering inside to submit her application. Creator's thoughts. H. Jans. In a blink of an eye, it has exactly been 4 weeks since the first time Akari arrived at Tokyo. Looking at the full-length mirror that was hanging on the door of her apartment, Akari can't help but notice that she mostly inherited her looks from her mother, who is actually a Filipino, than her Japanese father. With one last twirl and a push on her glasses, her black plaid skirt inches above her knee. She decided earlier to pair it with a long-sleeved white lettuce-trimmed top and plain white sneakers to complete her chic look. At least, in this way, she doesn't look way too introverted in front of other students, even with her glasses on. It has been perfectly hot by the time Akari leaves through the door. The apartment she rented is 4 stations away from her school, so she would need to move fast, or else she will end up late for the 6 a.m. trip. By the time she gets off the train and arrives at Tokyo Station, Akari doubled her pace and almost ran towards the intersection road where the others were waiting for the traffic light to signify the crossing sign. While they all wait for it, Akari spotted someone familiar to her, while she kept on tugging at her skirt that she's now complaining of how short it is and how she regrets wearing it in the first place. Those thick tousled jet-black hair and an outstanding amount of height that let him enter their basketball team with her jerk ex-boyfriend back in high school. Could it be Ishida Jin? She accidentally blurted out his name, but regretted it afterward.
Even though they were surrounded by other students, Akari noticed the guy's head that was about to look in her direction right when the crossing sign turned green. Just then, Akari crossed over to the other side of the road in no time. By the time Akari decided to look for him again, he was nowhere to be seen. At that moment, she convinced herself it must have been her imagination. Looking convinced, Akari then decided to continue walking until such time that she finally reached the gates of one of the most prestigious schools here in Tokyo, Hirosaki University. She held her head up high and can't help but be fascinated by the looks of the campus ground alone, of how wide it is packed with different types of students like her. And among the freshman students who were lucky to be invited by this school to be part of their institution, she scored the second highest score in the previous National Universal Test. Now she wonders who placed first, or what school that student went to. "Miss, are you all right?" Her silence was suddenly interrupted by a guy's voice. Akari's head then jerked as it turned towards the direction of the person who spoke to her, only to find herself up against a guy with auburn hair that was curling to the sides. His blue eyes stared at her with such intensity, but they also displayed friendliness with his friendly grin that was framed by a set of perfect white teeth. And before she could let herself totally doze off in front of this seemingly hot guy in front of her, Akari forced herself back to reality.
Yes, I am totally fine. Thanks for asking. She replied to him as politely as she could. That's great. Earlier, I've been seeing you staring at the gates and not entering the school grounds. I thought you... I said I'm fine, Akari repeated. This time she doesn't mean to sound a little bit rude to the guy who did nothing to her. Okay, if you say so. They were about to part ways, with her going to the left side and the guy going to the right, along with other students here, when he noticed Akari going to the opposite direction. His eyebrows were drawn together upon seeing her this way. "You are a freshman student, right?" he asked once again, making Akari stop in her tracks and turn to look at him once more. "Yes," she replied, but then she pauses for a moment and asks herself how the heck did the guy know in the first place? But nah, that must only be out of pure luck, she thought to herself. "You know we have an orientation, right?" By the time their gazes met, the guy raised one eyebrow at her. "Oh right, the orientation." Akari almost forgot about it and was about to head towards the Student Affairs office to meet with the Student Affairs director to talk about her scholarship. "Yeah, pff." Akari pretended as if she hadn't forgotten about it and went with the guy going to their school gymnasium. But then she also realized that this annoying guy on her first day of school is also a freshman student like her. "I'm Leo Ishikawa, a business management student." Akari just started wondering who this guy was when he introduced himself out of the blue. And she felt it was only polite for her to do the same. Yamamoto Akari is my name. I'm an accounting student." Their conversation ended when they got to the gym and joined the other incoming freshmen. To Akari's surprise, she found the company and sat next to the stranger. Truly, this guy is too friendly for a stranger like her. It was then when the program started, and the school director of Hirosaki University, a tall, masculine guy in his suit and slacks, appeared on stage and welcomed each new face of the school with his warm speech. But what surprised Akari are the things that will happen next. I am well pleased to know as well that the person who got the highest score during the National Universal Test decided to join us in our humble institution, the school director announced at the end of his speech, which caused some of the students here to create a fuss about it. Even Akari is also dying to know who it was. I'd like to welcome here on stage, to give his short introductory speech, Mr. Ishida Jin from St. Therese High. All students applauded as the newly called student presented himself on stage with a nonchalant expression plastered on his face. All except Akari, who's too bewildered to move her hands to clap. The stranger from earlier, sitting beside her, immediately sensed the girl being like this and began to be curious about her right away. "No," Akari whispered to herself as her eyes widened in Jin's direction. "This can't be happening." Creator's thoughts. 8 Jans. Akari remembers Ishida Jin to be that typical high school guy who loves to hang out with cool guys and is so into basketball. He's as much as popular as his ex Renji, but you wouldn't expect that he could be this crazy-ass smart. He isn't the type of guy who loves to display his intelligence in front of other people, even before when they were still kids. That is why when Akari first witnessed him standing up on that platform and giving his speech as the one who got the highest score in the National Universal Test, it nearly drove her crazy.
And I'm sure their batchmates would also be thrilled once they know about this. Yes, Jin was her former childhood friend, when he and his mom moved into their neighborhood just 2 blocks away from their house. 2 days after they moved, she was rather bizarre to know that both their moms were once high school besties, the moment Akari's mom invited them over for a small dinner. Their friendship started over a racing video game. 8-year-old Jin at that time had walked into their house for the very first time with her mom, seeing Akari, who was then 7 years old at that time, sprawled over their floor and was busy playing the game. She was both a book nerd and a gamer by heart ever since. He approached her with a smug look on his face and proudly declared, "I got the highest score on the global rankings."
You can check it for yourself, just search the username Turbo Jin. Akari, being her competitive 7-year-old self that time, did as he says. She had just won a race when she started scrolling for the global rankings. True to his word, there he is. With his name printed as the first placer is none other than Turbo Jin. Akari's eyes went into full circles. Her name, Star Bunny, was right below his name. "No way," she said. After that day, she had continuously challenged him into a racing game every single time Jin came over to his house, but always ended up getting defeated as always. And before they knew it, Akari and Jin became close with each other. Jin transferred to Akari's school during their 3rd grade and stayed in the same room with her. At the time, he was considered the shortest boy of all the boys in class, and the last one to grow tall among them. As close as they were, Akari believed they would always be friends until Jin stopped coming to her house and being friends with her in their 6th grade. It was as if he completely removed himself. And just like that, the sibling bond that they once shared was instantly broken. It was then exactly during their middle school years, when their paths had crossed once again during a party held in some rich kid's house, when Akari became Renji's girlfriend, and Jin became his best pal. They seldom talked during their middle school years, only on important occasions that is, with either of them intentionally avoiding crossing paths with one another. Akari honestly thought that after she graduated high school at St. Therese High, she would also stop seeing old colleagues from Kyoto. But after seeing Ishida Jin here at Hirosaki University, giving his speech as the student who got the highest score in their national universal test, she then knew that she was completely wrong about it. Fujiwara Leo, whose presence was totally forgotten by Akari at this time, stared at her with a crease forming in between his brows. Finally, after the orientation was done, and now they are walking together towards the business and economics building for students under that certain field, he dares to ask her what was going on with her. "Is that your boyfriend? The one who was on stage earlier?" he asks in his most casual tone. He knows that he and Akari had just met, and that he has no right to ask her these certain questions, but he can't help it. Akari immediately goes back to reality. Her head snapped forward and met Leo's gaze. She now realized that she was still walking with this stranger up until this moment. "We are definitely not a thing. He was just an old acquaintance, you know?" After saying this, Akari shrugs and adds, "Why am I even explaining this to you? We just met, for goodness sake." Now they are in front of the department building and stopped in their tracks in the middle of the intersection, where they had to part ways. Akari must go to the student affairs office to discuss her scholarship, while Leo must find his first period class according to his schedule. "Right, I totally forgot," Leo says casually, like Akari's words didn't bother him at all. "See you then, stranger." Akari felt a little bit guilty for snapping at this guy, who did nothing wrong to her. But she knows she can't take her words back anymore. Leo waves his right hand through her as he turns his back and heads towards his destination. Akari can't help but mutter, "Way to go, Akari. So much for making you friends, huh?" She then shrugs and also begins her trip towards the said office. Akari's eyes went into full circles one more time after arriving at the student affairs office. It was already astonishing for her to see Jin in the flesh, standing in that platform earlier during their orientation. But to see him here for the second time around is another thing she needs to bear. "Oh, please, tell me this is not happening to me right now," she mutters to herself before she enters and closes the door behind her. She took a seat that was across to where the boy is currently sitting. An embossed metal name tag that says Mr. David Suzuki, Director of Student Affairs, was placed on a table in front of them. The room itself was fully air-conditioned, with the lingering coffee aroma filling their nostrils right now. Seeing that the person in charge is nowhere to be found, she starts craning for her neck to look for this Mr. Sato mentioned on the tag. "He, got the documents for us to sign on, in case you are wondering where Mr. Sato is," Jin says quietly in his seat, making Akari stop from whatever she's currently doing. "Oh." "And he says he also went to get himself some coffee as well,"
he adds. Clearing her throat, she says, "Oh, is that so?" Jin just nodded his head as his response. None of them talked for like a few minutes before the boy seated across Akari had spoken once again. "Long time no see." That caught Akari off guard. "What do you mean? We often see each other when I am still, your best friend's girlfriend." She honestly doesn't want to mention that bastard's name, nor wanted to remember it completely. Jin knew whom Akari was pertaining to, but he set it aside and replied, "You know that's not what I meant. I mean, like, for a very long time, we haven't really seen and spoken to each other." Akari snickers inside her head. The words, "And whose fault is that, you think?" was just at the tip of her tongue, but she tried to hold it off and just forget about it. Instead, she just gave him a one-word answer. "Yeah." They both knew that awkwardness is starting to build up between them, with both of their presence present in one room. Smiling to himself, Jin tries to break this by suddenly declaring, "I'm taking a BS in business management." "You?" Akari's lips parted. Her expression was aghast. "I'm in accountancy. So wait, does that mean—" "Yep, you and me will be classmates for some particular subjects." Jin fills in the right words for her. Just like the old times. Creator's thoughts. Taejan's. Your gift is the motivation for my creation. Give me more motivation. Their scholarship was completely discussed for both Jin and Akari, being the two smartest kids who got the first and the second highest score here in Hirosaki University, and two of the 4 selected students who were exclusively invited to enroll in this institution. Akari moved her head to look for the other 2 scholars who were supposed to be here already for them to discuss the scholarship. Even Mr. Sato is looking displeased with those other 2's absence. "We'll just proceed without them. Darn it, being late on the first day of classes." The director says so to himself as he views the time on his wristwatch. And so, they started their conversation regarding that matter. The terms for the scholarship are simple. As long as a certain student average is met at the end of each semester, they won't have a problem regarding both of their tuition fees. All they need to mind are the miscellaneous fees that come with enrolling in this school. After everything has been discussed, Mr. Sato, the Director of Student Affairs, asked in his business-like tone, "Do you have any other questions? Or clarifications, perhaps?" Both Jin and Akari looked at each other. Finally, it was Jin who spoke first. "None that I could think of." With a swift move, Mr. Sato then looks at Akari. The latter shook her head no as well. "All right then, you may go now to your classes. A copy of your schedule has already been inserted in your student handbook. Please refer to that one to go to your respective classes." A half-hearted smile is now visible in Mr. Sato's slightly wrinkled face as he looked at them for the last time. Jin and Akari bowed their heads before they left his office. There, Akari and he grabbed their printed schedule in the handbook that the director had handed out to them earlier. Akari is still a bit uneasy with Jin lingering around. She can't still believe it with her own eyes, that her ex's best friend is here, and that she has to, if not talk to him, then see a familiar face in the classroom for the next 4 years, after she thought that she could start a new life in this institution. Just as Akari is about to leave here, a pair of students, both a girl and a boy student, appear to be having some argument as they head towards the student affairs office. In her mind, Akari guessed that these might be the other 2 students whom Hirosaki gave the privilege to enroll in here. "I can't believe we are still stuck with each other in college, and because of you, we are now late for the appointment," says the girl with the shiny black, medium bob-cut hair with a pin on it and almond round brown eyes. "No, it was because of you that we are late," countered the guy with the sleek grayish hair and a pair of almond jet black eyes. "Oh, just forget it. I'm going in." Without waiting for her acquaintance, the girl opened the door and walked into the office. The guy follows after her. Both Akari and Jin were stunned after seeing that. Just what was that all about? Without later for him, Akari started to make her way towards their next class, which is the subject titled Fundamentals of Computer Software and Applications. Silently behind her, she could feel Jin's presence trailing from behind. "What? We are in the same field, remember?" Jin's eyebrow was raised only after Akari turned to look at him for the second time around. Akari only ignored him and proceeded to their classroom. After pushing the door in front of her, a classroom filled with more or less 20 students already had first caught Akari's attention. In their class back in high school, there were more students than this, but all the same, it still makes her a bit nervous to be in a room packed with people she doesn't know. Yamamoto Akari kept a straight face and held her chin high. Remember, your goal is to make as many friends as possible, she reminded herself to help her feel relaxed. You have to blend in with everyone. Yet as hard as she's trying, she knows for herself that she could never blend in with the crowd. Apart from her lack of social skills and introverted nature, there are her biracial looks that make her quite outstanding in the crowd.
Hazel brown hair that reaches her shoulders, round chestnut eyes, and fair skin color don't really look like the typical type of a Japanese girl that everyone here is so accustomed to. Thus, the reason why she's treated as an outcast ever since. Walking in the middle of these students is like walking on an icy path. The intense stares they threw in her direction definitely give her the chills, and the whispers they gave to each other are like a threat to her. She knew then that her biracial features would still be a hindrance for her to make new sets of friends, just like it has always been in the past. Since all the seats at the back and on the second to the last row are already occupied, Akari has no choice then but to take a seat in the front row. Unloading her things, she kept her head low while avoiding making eye contact with her new classmates. Even in college, no one was still willing to sit next to her. To keep herself busy, she opened her phone, and to her surprise and delight, Codewave's message popped up in her notifications. Cyberbite, smile. Enjoy your first day of class. After reading it, a smile was automatically planted on her lips. It's weird how Codewave's message pops up at the right circumstances such as this one, as if he or she is monitoring her life 24/7 in an invisible spy camera or something. Just then, Akari hears indistinct noises from the chair being moved as someone is seating on her right. As her gaze shifted to her right, Akari's eyes almost went into full circles when she saw Ishida Jin taking the seat next to her. Why wouldn't he leave her alone, is what her mind is asking right now. What? Am I not allowed to sit here? He asks in a mocking tone in which she only ignored and pretended not to hear. First, she knows that Jin and she are schoolmates. Then the next thing she knows is that she and he are actually classmates once more and are pursuing the same college field in business. And now this? You've got to be kidding me, Akari mutters to herself, her eyes shut in frustration. Creator's thoughts. Odd Juns. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Yamamoto. Akari's first day of classes went well so far as she'd hoped. Though it would be much more pleasant if someone had reached out to her and befriended her, all in all, her day at school didn't end up badly. The school bell had just rung, indicating that the classes for today are over. Akari's classmates are already heading for the door and are now leaving, but the girl is still stuffing her notebook and pen back inside her backpack. Akari was in the middle of what she was doing when she noticed Ishida Jin already stood up from his seat without even talking to her. Well, it's better if things stay this way, Akari thought to herself. As long as Ishida Jin doesn't talk to her that much, she could stay away from trouble for as long as she can. Once done, she carefully zips up her bag and straps it behind her. By the time she stood up and turned around, Ishida Jin was nowhere to be seen. Akari then started making for the door and walked away. Now that she is out of the campus grounds and her classes are over, Akari then starts making a keen observation with her eyes, like looking around to her surroundings if there is anyone following her or not. When she's relieved to know that the coast seems to be clear for now, Akari swiftly crosses the pedestrian and makes it just in time for the 5 p.m. train. No one has to know, especially the school administrators of the prestigious school that she is enrolled to right now, of the things that she is about to do right now. Welcome home, master. A cheerful greeting from a perky little girl in her blonde, waist-length wig hair, wearing a cutesy maid's outfit, like that of a cosplayer's, comes echoing the four corners of this spacious room, packed with gentlemen who serve as the establishment's VIP guests. A glittering pink mask is fastened on the upper part of her face, to conceal half of it, and her identity as well. Oh, Rose, it's a pleasure to see you once again. The gentleman that the girl enthusiastically greeted earlier now wears a big smile in his wrinkled face once he saw who greeted him at the door. This girl, called Rose, sees to it that this slightly old man is led into his seat. Then, with a seductive yet a friendly smile on her lips, and the menu being handed over towards him, the girl asks, "What can I serve you, master?" "You already know what's my favorite, do you?" the man asks in return. Rose flashes her triumphant, charming grin. "Why, of course, I certainly do, master." "Please wait here until your food is served." "Oh yes, I will, Rose. Take your time, honey."
Rose came dashing towards the kitchen area, where the other maids like her are also busy taking their orders.
One rice omelette and an iced tea, please. And oh, add some bottle of ketchup as well. My master likes his name to be on his rice omelette, says Rose.
Coming right up, one of the chefs who is working at the kitchen replies. Rose was still standing near the kitchen, waiting for her order to come, when the cafe manager and head mistress, Miss Bell, came up to her and squeals.
The number of our guests have been doubled the moment they know you'll be on the shift. Thanks to you and your charming presence, Akari. I mean, Rose,
says her boss, as she points at the line of men who want Rose to be their maid for the day. Well, that's right. This girl, who is famously known in this maid cafe as Rose, is the shy and introverted girl Yamamoto Akari in real life. Replacing her glasses temporarily with contacts if she's inside the cafe only, you wouldn't tell it at first that it's actually her.
It has been 4 excruciating weeks ever since Yamamoto Akari applied for this kind of work at the La La Land Cafe. She doesn't see any other high-paying job that could complement her busy college schedule like this one. Thus, she accepted it half-heartedly, even if it means she needs to hide her identity as someone who works in an exclusive maid cafe in Tokyo. Akari's first 2 weeks hadn't gone so easy for her. As a newbie, she has lots of things to do. Plus, she needs to work every day during those times that she's still vacant. Luckily for her, Akari has 3 out of 4 maids here in the cafe that helped her to make her way into the rankings. And her boss is also kind and patient with her as well, while she's still learning. As it turns out, the introverted and shy Akari that everybody had known turned out to be the well-sought-after and highest-paid waitress/maid in the La La Land Cafe in her 3rd week here. All 5 maids' identities of La La Land Cafe are protected with each of their chosen secret codenames from their favorite food.
Though as for Akari, her favorite food cookie has already been taken, and so are the others. Thus, she instead named herself as Rose, from her favorite cartoon show, SpongeBob SquarePants. Aside from that, they have been strictly told to wear their masks at all times, no matter what their cafe theme for the week is. This is also to protect their identities from being breached. Costumes are provided by the management, and the salary is already enough for Akari to survive in Tokyo. 4 weeks have passed, and now the cafe's VIP guests are now doubled in number. Thanks to Akari, indeed. Akari blushes and flashes her gentle smile.
It's not only because of me. It's also because of everyone's efforts as well to make this cafe even livelier than before.
Oh, please, you are being too modest, says Miss Bell, who swats Akari's arm, but with no force. The latter can't help but chuckle at her boss's adorable reaction. Miss Bell may look like she's in her teenage years, with a cute, short-trimmed pink wig, baby face that could captivate anyone, hearts and their cutesy maid's uniform all in all. But truthfully, she just recently revealed to everyone else that she's now in her 30s, though she didn't exactly say the figures. That's when Akari hears the bell inside the kitchen rings, indicating that the food she ordered up for her guest is finished and she needs to serve it now.
I'll see you later in a bit, Miss Bell. With a curt nod, Yamamoto Akari starts scurrying away towards a master to serve the food to him. Akari has been entertaining one guest from another until such time that almost all of their guests have finally been served. Some are already leaving the store now with those pleasant smiles on their faces. The way she makes them happy with the simple gestures she's making, Yamamoto Akari can't help but be happy as well. Bringing joy to her masters is, after all, her utmost priority here. The chimes placed on the door starts to make some clanking sounds as a new guest has come to La La Land Cafe.
Akari was near to it after serving her latest master. Thus, she swiftly turns around and wore the smile that she has been wearing whenever a new guest arrives.
Welcome, Master.
Eventually, that smile of hers soon faded the moment she discovers who that new guest was. For the boy that had just entered into their cafe is none other than Ishida Jin himself. Ishida Jin starts to get on Akari's nerves by the time he appears in the cafe that she's currently working on. Just why on earth does she have to see his annoying face every single time these past few hours of her life? Yamamoto Akari now recovered from the momentary shock she experienced earlier and was about to greet the newly arrived guest when someone from behind her appeared out of nowhere and did the job for her.
Welcome, Master Jin. It's been a while since the last time I saw you here.
It was Saito Olivia who greeted him, aka Cookie in this exclusive realm they are in right now, where they could be anything they wanted. Cookie is, let's say, her best competitor in the cafe. When Akari made it into the top, Cookie wasn't so happy about it. unlike their fellow maids in the cafe. Ever since then, she became hostile towards the girl whenever their paths and their gazes happened to cross. But wait. Akari can't help but raise her right eyebrow. Ishida Jin is a regular here? How come she didn't know about that? Ah, Cookie, it's you. It's nice to see you again. Ishida Jin flashed his most adorable smile that got Cookie blushing hard right now. As what Yamamoto Akari had known so far, Ishida Jin is so shy to talk to other girls besides her when they were kids. Hence, she was the only female friend that Jin has in the past. But ever since he started avoiding her for the past few years, Yamamoto Akari should have known that people do change over time. It just makes her sad how she hadn't seen those changes in her former best friend's appearance and behavior. Yamamoto Akari's train of thought was soon interrupted when she suddenly heard a voice of her previous customer calling out for her. Akari's attention snapped within seconds, and she started walking away from her coworker and her schoolmate, who was still talking with one another at the moment, and went her way towards her customer.
There is no way Ishida Jin could tell that this is me,
Akari convinced herself. After all, she is wearing a mask that protects their identity inside the cafe. Ishida Jin's aunt, Ms. Bell, owns this place where he used to hang out whenever he and his family happened to visit Tokyo. By the time he opened the door of the establishment to visit his dear aunt, something had caught his attention all of a sudden. He pretty much knew all the maids that worked in this cafe ever since he started hanging out here, but not their real names and faces, since Ms. Bell doesn't allow him to loiter in the personnel room inside. As far as he knows, his aunt only hires 5 maids to work in this cafe, excluding the 2 cooks she has inside the kitchen. But the one wearing the waist-length blonde hair has new facial features that he is not accustomed to look at. Maybe a newly hired maid here, I guess? Ishida Jin thought to himself. He starts to take one step towards that particular maid, but as he did, Cookie, the one that always serves him whenever he happens to set foot in this place, advances towards him and starts to entertain the young boy. Welcome, Master Jin.
It's been a while since the last time I saw you here, says the ever-energetic Cookie. Ishida Jin really wanted to speak with a newly hired maid and get to know her more, but it is also impolite for him not to entertain the maid in front of him right now. Therefore, he plasters a timid smile across his face and meets Cookie's gaze.
Ah, Cookie, it's you. It's nice to see you again, he says as friendly as he could. While Cookie is being occupied with Ishida Jin's innate charm, the boy's eyes are attempting to sneak a glance in the new maid's direction. But she was already gone entertaining other customers before he could have the chance to speak with her. So, you wanted to order something, Master? Cookie spoke once again that made Ishida Jin to quickly return his gaze at the girl in front of him. Everyone in this cafe already has an idea that he's related to the cafe owner, but he still pays for his own meal and drink. However, he's sure that the new maid doesn't know it yet. Yes, give me the usual order, please. Alrighty, 1 cinnamon cake and strawberry parfait coming right up.
In the meantime, please have a seat here.
And Cookie gently leads him by his arm into a vacant couch near the large arched window reserved for their regular customers. Jin follows her lead until he is finally comfortably seated in his chair. Then Cookie quickly excuses herself to get his order. While waiting, Ishida Jin keeps on sneaking glances at the newly hired maid of the cafe, who is still entertaining her guests. From what he is seeing, this maid is really on demand right now. No wonder when he came over here a few minutes ago, there was a long line of bachelors waiting outside the cafe. Her name's Rose. She is my newly hired maid 4 weeks ago. Jin snaps back to attention as soon as he hears the voice of his aunt, Ms. Bell. Aunt Bell, it is so nice to see you once again. Jin stood up and gave his aunt a tight hug. The latter did the same thing. I saw you eyeing my new maid with the utmost interest. Would you also like me to make a reservation for you to be her master for a week, perhaps? His aunt flashed a teasing smile at the young boy, who in turn rolls his eyes at her. Oh, please. I am just curious about her, that's all. Why did you suddenly hire a new maid? The maid before her had to resign because her family had found out she has been working here for almost a year now. So I have to find someone as quickly as possible, and fortunately, she came just in time. Ms. Bell clasps his hands together in delight as she smiles in the maid's direction. Oh, I see. Anyway, my dear nephew, I'll be going now. This week's reservation is already up. You may as well want to use your acquired points in requesting something from her. Ms. Bell winks and flashes a grin before she heads back into the kitchen. Jin, on the other hand, shakes his head in disapproval. His aunt surely knows how to tease him sometimes. Ate Jans. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Yamamoto Akari still can't get over the fact that she clearly saw Ishida Jin's face at the establishment where she is currently working at. For the girl, his appearance is like a threat to her, like a time bomb that could explode anytime soon. If the school finds out what she's been doing to survive in Tokyo, she could lose her scholarship. And worse, she could be expelled from this prestigious institution for tainting their name with such scandalous activities such as this. Akari doesn't know his intentions yet. Why did that guy suddenly decide to show up in her life after all the years that he has been avoiding her? But one thing is for sure, that she cannot allow him to know what her current work is, or else her life here in Tokyo is truly finished before she could even have a jump start. The next day, in Hirosaki University, Yamamoto Akari tries her best to play it cool as she walks in the hallways on the second floor of the main school building, leading to her first period class for the first semester, which they will deal with the fundamentals of accounting. Akari also learned from the brief orientation they had with Mr. Sato that the school only has 2 semesters each academic year, which is a relief to her, to be honest. The very first face that she saw upon entering their classroom is, unfortunately, Ishida Jin's. He was already in his seat, scribbling something in his notebook, as Akari is on her way to her chosen seat. Other students are happily having conversations with their groups or with their buddies, but no one has still paid attention to the girl, nor show any signs that they are willing to include her in any of their groups. Sighing, Akari finally settled down in her seat, sling her bag behind her chair after pushing her glasses slightly up, and took out a notebook and a pen from it for jotting down notes later in their discussion. With her thoughts still lingering on the subject of her being a maid in secret, Akari sneaks a glance over her shoulder to look at Jin and thoroughly observes him. From what she is now seeing, Jin still looks oblivious of her connection with the cafe he visited yesterday. If, in the future, things start to get out of hand and this guy finally knows her secret, Akari may have to leave the Maid Cafe someday, even if she doesn't want to. "I'm fully aware that you are now staring at me," Ishida Jin says out of the blue, making Akari flinch and hurriedly peels her gaze away from her. "I am not." Jin now faces Akari with an amused expression plastered on his face. "Yes, you are." "I am not. I was just—" Akari tries to look for a solid alibi that could get her out of this humiliating situation when she sees the sketch on Jin's notebook. "I was just admiring your artwork. That's all." Jin chuckles and opens the notebook for Akari to see what he has been drawing these past few minutes. "Geez, you don't have to sound so defensive there, Kari." Jin croons, making Akari stunned for a moment. Kari is Jin's nickname for her when they were kids, named after Kari, Goku's wife from Dragon Ball Z, whom she admires the most because of her honest, prank, and brave character. They were both fans of the said anime series. On the other hand, Jinny is what Akari used to call him during those days when they were still so close. It's been so long since she heard that nickname from him that it got her stunned for a moment. But then, Akari pretended like she didn't hear it, and kept a straight face afterward. "You know how I used to love drawing since we were kids, right? It's been so long since I've sketched." Akari hears Jin's sigh as he stares into his simple yet beautiful masterpiece. A quick sketch of a random anime girl. Not only are they introverts before, but also a slight otaku as well, which may not sound normal here. And Jin used to tell Akari how much he wanted to be a manga artist someday when he grows up, and the girl has always cheered him up with his passion for drawing. But Jin left Akari hanging all of a sudden, and started hanging out with his set of cool and extrovert friends, and before she knew it, Akari was left alone, enjoying the things that they used to love together all this time. Akari sets aside those thoughts for a while, and replies, "Yeah, I remember that. But then you suddenly forget all about it and left me hanging before, right? So much for being a good friend back then, Jin." She doesn't mean to snap at the boy like that, for he doesn't really have the slightest idea how much damage he caused into her life. But the least she could do is to make things clear to Jin that things would never be the same way for them again. "So please, Ishida-kun, leave me alone." At the cafeteria, Akari was eating alone in an empty table, isolated from the rest, while pretending to be busy by mindlessly scrolling her phone up and down. She was busy munching her tuna sandwich she made early this morning to avoid spending her money when something caught her attention all of a sudden. It was a new thread in the Introvert Nation site that came from her online friend, Codewave. Akari hurriedly chugged on her water container before reading Codewave's recent post an hour ago.
Love is hard for introverts indeed. The feelings are there, but the means of expressing ourselves to the person we like is lacking. After reading such a heartfelt post from her online friend, Akari quickly tapped his name to send a quick direct message. Starbunny Arrow. I saw your post just now. Are you okay? Akari was on her way to take another bite of her homemade sandwich when Codewave replied to her. Cyberbite. Yes, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. But Akari could tell that this person is really not okay, even though they aren't facing each other at the moment. Trying to be a good friend to Codewave, she sent another concerned message. Starbunny. If you want, and if it makes you feel better, you can talk to me about it. I still have 20 minutes before our third period. Codewave surprisingly took long before replying, probably assessing within himself if he could share what's troubling him to the girl. But a minute later, Akari hears her phone beep, and that's when she got the message from him. Cyberbite. First of all, I'm a guy, and I have this girl whom I really like since God knows when, and I don't really know how to say it to her actually. Any tips, oh wise friend? Forgetting his worries for a while, Yamamoto Akari's lips parted the moment she saw the first part of his reply. There were times that she assumed Codewave is a girl because of how friendly he is on the site, and not just to her, but to every role player / online person on the site as well. But now, Akari is definitely sure that Codewave is, in fact, a guy. Creator's thoughts. 8 Jans. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know. Is that her? The one who's bothering our Prince, Jin? I think so. How dare her? Look at her. So plain and boring. Ishida Jin could be famous around girls in an instant because of his incredibly good looks, good family background, and a brain of a genius person. No wonder he already has an instant fans club in this school. It was already a convenience for Akari that they stopped hanging with each other during high school. Thanks to that, all the people could focus on is her relationship with her bastard ex. Yet, as Akari is now heading back towards her seat for another subject in accounting, she is very much aware that she is now being stared at and being talked about by the girls of their class. There were actually 3 of them sitting near the windows, but she didn't care. She kept on tugging her glasses just to keep herself busy from time to time. Her eyebrows were hunched together. How come they are saying that she is the one bothering that guy, when in fact, it was the other way around? Akari wished that Jin would totally leave her alone, so that she could get the peaceful life in college that she was yearning for. After all, she wasn't able to experience that during high school, after getting involved with a famous heartthrob. Akari tried to ignore all of them and settled down in their seat, pretending to be oblivious and all. She was about to take out her notebook to do some of her doodles once more when she was confronted by those girls who were just talking about her a while ago. Her hands froze and looked at them nonchalantly. Are you and Ishida Jin in a dating status or something? Says the girl with the silky smooth black hair that reaches her shoulders and full bangs on her forehead. Akari nearly scoffed at her if she wasn't able to control herself from doing so. As if. What are you then? Another one spoke with the dark brown hair tied into a ponytail with the bangs that covered her forehead as well. Akari is nearly losing her patience with these girls that she totally snapped at them. If you are really that curious, go ask him himself. The third girl with the straight, short, reddish hair that only reaches her long, stretched neck made a dramatic gasp as she clasped her right hand to cover her mouth. Like her other friends, she too has bangs that now cover her forehead. I didn't know having bangs is a trend these days. Excuse me? Akari only smiled at them timidly and responded, You heard me. All 3 of these girls can't help but raise their eyebrows at her. This bitch! The short-haired girl is already throwing tantrums in front of her while glaring at her target. Others who are now inside the classroom have been distracted and looked towards their direction. Hey, quit your yapping, Daisy, and go find Kitty! Akari's head tilted as she searched for the owner of that new voice that suddenly emerged out of nowhere. As she did, she came locking stares with the girl Akari had seen at the student affairs, who is now glaring at these 3 annoying girls. What did you just call me? The short-haired girl cried out, but the former only scoffed at her reaction. The girl looks at these 3 with amusement in her brown eyes as she crosses her arms over her chest. Oh, I almost forgot. All 3 of you wear that same obnoxious bangs that I can't even tell who among you is the real Daisy. Next to this girl is the same guy whom Akari also saw at the student affair office the other day, who is now laughing his ass off at the girl's punchline.
He raises his right hand in front of her in a high-five manner and says, "That was really a good one." But she only ignored his presence and didn't break her stare at these three. And he immediately returns his hand to his side awkwardly. "I can't believe we will still see the iconic Tom and Jerry duo in college." Akari hears the tall girl with the ponytail hair sneering. She can't help but find how amusing these girls' reactions are, as the genius girl plays with their emotions. "I can't believe it either. I wasn't expecting some brain-dead bitches like you three to enroll in a prestigious university such as this." A smirk occurred on the oppressor's lips as she witnessed the distressed faces of these three. "Let's just get out of here, girls. We will just be wasting our time and beauty dealing with someone like her," the short-haired girl says, and the three of them walk out afterward. Finally, some peace at last, Akari thought to herself. The girl who helped her deal with those girls walked right towards her while dragging a chair behind her, making Akari anxious all of a sudden. Trailing behind her is the guy she saw at the student affairs office.
Those three could really be a pain in my ass sometimes. Akari hears the girl speak for the first time ever since she saw her at the office. The girl, on the other hand, has now settled down in her chair and looked straight into Akari's eyes. Who are they anyway? Akari asked curiously. But the latter didn't bother mentioning their names. I already forgot. They're not worth remembering anyway. Akari didn't know how to react to that. Instead, she gave her heartfelt gratitude towards her. Thank you. But the latter only laughed at her reaction. I didn't help you, silly. I've just developed this habit of pissing off those girls, that's all. Akari could feel her cheeks burning with embarrassment. And here she thought that the girl was too kind to come to her rescue. Suddenly, the girl reached out her hand and made a sudden introduction of herself. Honda Yuna here. I've heard from Mr. Sato that you and that Jin have the two highest scores during the last National Universal Test. Akari's face flushed when someone had finally reached out to her. I'm Yamamoto Akari.
And yes, you've heard it right.
Is that so? Akari almost flinched when she witnessed how Yuna's face shifted from being nonchalant to being murderous in just a snap of her fingers. She could literally imagine the girl emitting a massive black aura around her, like what is usually portrayed in animes that she watched in the past. Both of you are going down then, Yuna finally says, her hand making the hand gesture. Akari gulped. This girl is starting to scare her now. Knock it off, will you? Yuna was only back to her senses once more when the boy beside her, whose presence is long forgotten already, swatted her in her shoulders real hard that sends her body forward. The former instantly tilts her head to look at him and shoots him her infamous death glare. To Akari, he says, she's just joking, you know. She could be a bit off sometimes, probably because of her competitive side, but she can be friendly if she wants to. Akari isn't really so sure about that, especially after witnessing the fight they had in front of the office the other day. But she only nods her head slowly. Anyway, I'm Suzuki Ryo, he added. Judging by his looks, this guy sure looks kind of friendly compared to the girl beside him. Nice meeting you, Hayashi-san. Akari smiled at him. Likewise. Yamamoto Akari did her very best to avoid Ishida Jin at all cost, since all the other girls who have their eyes on him start to mess with her supposed-to-be peaceful college life. However, a very special guest will soon arrive here not later than 7 in the evening. I want you to be his maid for the entire week. Akari's boss, Ms. Bell, instructs her as soon as she arrives at work from her school. The maid cafe closes at exactly 9 in the evening. Akari can't help but be curious about this special guest that her boss is now telling to her. Hence, she decides to ask about this person she is supposed to entertain for the entire week. But because she ranked first in the rankings, Akari could use her leave as many times as she pleases. May I know who this very special guest I am supposed to cater to? Ms. Bell, on the other hand, smiles at her knowingly and answers her question. It's actually my nephew, Ishida Jin. As soon as she heard the name, Akari's eyes instantly widened in shock. She didn't even know that Ms. Bell has a family member who visits this cafe. And it's Ishida Jin among all the people in this world. What a small world indeed. Why? Is there something wrong with my request? Ms. Bell seems to notice the reluctance in this girl's eyes. And then she added, I'm not asking you this because he is a relative of mine alone, but also because he actually acquired a quite impressive amount of points that he hasn't used for the past few months. Akari then tries to regain her composure in front of her boss, as she notices a hint of suspicion in those pair of chocolate brown eyes of hers.
She had figured out sooner that her sudden reaction earlier would come out weird for Ms. Bell, considering that she doesn't have any idea that she and I had known each other. So with a determined tone and a sweet smile on her lips, or at least she tries to make it convincing, she replies, "Of course, Ms. Bell. I would be willing to entertain a certain special guest of this cafe." Setting aside her worries for now, Akari knows that she needs to adhere to her boss's personal request rather than mind her own personal affairs. And as if on cue, Ishida Jin's figure soon appears in their cafe as soon as the clock strikes 7. Akari's lips parted. Talk about great timing. Ms. Bell now looks at Akari with expectation in her eyes. And so, without further ado, Yamamoto Akari walks towards the guest in haste with the menu in hand, leaving her poor co-worker Cookie in frustration for taking her usual guest away from her. "Why has she had to steal my precious guest away from me?" is what Akari heard from Cookie as she happens to pass by. Shaking her head disapprovingly, she only ignored it and continued walking towards her main target for today. Plastering her sweetest smile across his face, she says to the guy, "Welcome, Master Jin. How did your day go so far?" Being polite as ever, Ishida Jin faced the newly hired maid in front of her and flashed a reluctant smile on his lips. Her Aunt Belle was really serious about her plan of making this girl as his maid for the whole week. "It has been great so far." "That's great to hear," Akari cheerfully says, clapping her hands together for the added effect. "To make your day even better, I will be your maid for the rest of the week. Allow me to lead you to your seat and take your order as well afterward." Ishida Jin shrugs and says, "Yeah, sure." Akari then leads him to his seat, which is the couch area where they all place their most special guests who earned the highest points for the certain year. Ms. Bell is in charge of tabulating those points every day. As Jin is being led to his seat, he can't help but sneak glances at this newly hired maid walking beside him. He is having this nostalgic feeling every time he is near her, though he is really not sure what causes it in the first place. Suddenly, he felt the urge to pull off that mask that conceals her face and wanted to know her more. But sadly, he knows for himself that would be against the cafe's policies, and his aunt would be so furious at him if ever he does that. Jin snaps back to reality when he hears the sweet voice of the girl once more. "Here we are, master. Make yourself comfortable." Still regaining his consciousness, he responds, "Oh, okay," and sits down in haste. The maid soon gives him the menu and pulls out a mini notepad and a pen out of her mini pocket and looks at him once more. "So, what can I get for you, master?" Jin already knows what he wants to order whenever he enters the cafe, and that is his favorite cinnamon cake paired with his fave strawberry parfait. But right now, he seems distracted, and because of that, he picks up the menu that the girl placed on the table and reads the contents. I want this om nom nomu rice and a pika pika strawberry parfait, please. And oh, I want to have my name on it with a ketchup sauce, please." Jin flashes his grin, which, for Akari, is so bright to look at, making her squint her eyes for a while as she wrote down his order. "One om nom nomu rice and pika pika strawberry parfait coming right up." Akari soon leaves Jin's sight for a while as she dashed straight for the kitchen. On the other hand, Jin somehow finds it amusing how the maid seems to be reluctant to see him while he observes her keenly, as if they have already met before all of this. It didn't take long before Yamamoto Akari went back to Ishida Jin's table with the food he ordered earlier. Carefully, Akari removes the dome-shaped stainless steel cloche that is covering his dish, and in it reveals his om nom nom yu rice with the bottle of ketchup standing beside it. The steam that comes from the newly cooked omelet with fried rice filling now starts to rise from it. Ishida Jin carefully watches as the maid in front of her picks up the bottle of ketchup and scribbles the letters on top of the omelet with delicacy and grace, forming his name, K-A-N. His eyes were filled with astonishment as the letters came out perfectly than what he expected. On the other hand, Akari's hands were slightly trembling as she held the ketchup bottle in her hands. Knowing that Jin carefully observes his every movement makes her anxious for some unknown reason, although she is already used to being watched by her guests for the past 3 months that she has worked here. She constantly reminded herself that Jin is just another regular customer here, and that he doesn't have any idea who she is, just to steady herself and avoid making a mistake as she drips ketchup on top of his omelet. "That's awesome," Jin compliments her as soon as she is finished with her task. He even leaned his head to have a closer look at his omelet with his mouth parted. "Now I will feel guilty to eat this whole thing up." Akari laughs a pretentious, shy laugh before replying to his statement. "You will feel more guilty if you will let that food be put to waste. Don't you think so?" Master? Even calling him master the entire time of his visit here feels foreign under her mouth that somehow annoys her even more. Jin seems enlightened with her words, looks up to her as he chuckles softly and gently scrapes the back of his head. Yeah, I guess you're right. He took the spoon and fork that was placed on both sides of the plate and gently gave the omelet a cut. The fried rice inside the omelet now pops out freely as he finishes cutting it in the middle. Enjoy your meal then, master. Against her will, Akari gently bows her head to show some respect to her guest before proceeding with the next customer, who was already waving his hand to call her attention for quite some time now. A few minutes later, no new customers had showed up in La La Land cafes so far, leaving all the maids vacant after serving the existing customers with their meals. Akari now starts to think that Ishida Jin is the bringer of misfortune in this place. Speaking of him, she spots the guy waving his hand in her direction. Instinctively, Akari approaches him with a smile plastered on her pretty face. What can I do for you, master? Why don't you join me here for a while? It seems that you don't have any customers yet. Ishida Jin smiles sheepishly at the girl, making Akari stunned for a moment. What is he up to? Does he already have any idea who I am, and now he is trying to play some tricks on me? The thoughts suddenly came inside Akari's head as she tried to assess things out. Well then, bring it on. Gracefully, Akari bows her head one more time before saying, As you wish, master. But please do note that there will be an additional charge of $30 for making a maid stay in your dining area. Akari said that last part intentionally to make Jin somehow change his mind. However, to her dismay though, Jin only gave him a thumbs up and requested her to take the seat across him. Damn him! I really wanted to know what was going on inside that brain of his right this second, Akari mutters inside her head. I bet you haven't eaten dinner yet. It is almost 8:30 in the evening. Would you like me to order you something? Jin asks politely, in which Akari swiftly declines. I had already eaten dinner during my break, master. She lied. She barely had a break today, since one of her co-workers, Sakura, had her leave tonight. But thank you so much for the generous offer. As if on cue, Akari's stomach soon began to rumble, making the girl's face flushed with embarrassment. Damn this stomach. She could properly tell now that Jin is trying to stifle a laugh, but in the end he can't control it anymore, and chuckled a throaty laugh. That alone made her face beet red big time, and the other maids to look at their direction. Ms. Bell finds this scene amusing in her eyes. Smiling, she says to herself, My, I haven't seen my nephew laugh like that for quite some time now. Please don't laugh, master. I'm just trying to be courteous as possible as I could. Prickles of cold sweat now start to roll down in her forehead as Akari lowers her head down. She can't bring herself to look at Jin directly in the eye right now, after that embarrassing moment she had experienced just now. As per her request, Jin now stops himself from further laughing. He clears his throat first and says, I find your reaction cute. That's why I can't help myself from laughing out loud. I'm sorry. A small gasp escaped Akari's lips as he heard this guy calling her reaction earlier a cute one, and when he apologized all of a sudden. Swiftly, she shoots her head up, suddenly meeting up his intense gaze at her. You don't have to apologize to me, master. Her stutter still didn't leave her as she tried to construct a comprehensible sentence. For the second time around. Ishida Jin points to the empty chair facing him, looks at her once again and says, Why don't we have this talk over dinner? I don't know exactly why, but I wanted to know you more, Rose. Akari can't even remember when was the last time she had eaten a meal together with her former childhood friend, Ishida Jin, but she didn't expect it to happen all over again. This boy is truly weird, she thought. Jin had avoided her before they even got into 6th grade, without hearing any reasons from him. And yet, I wanted to know you more, Rose-san. Akari kept asking herself, why? Why are you suddenly doing this to me, Ishida Jin? What is it that you want from me? All throughout dinner, Akari made sure to avoid making any eye contact with her master. She would only talk unless it is necessary, and would only respond according to what her master wanted her to do. Like making her get an extra parfait, for example. Without the girl knowing, Cookie, who is Akari's best competitor in this cafe, is watching their table with envy. Her fist forms into a ball as she glares in their direction. Ow! Akari yelped all of a sudden as she accidentally bites her tongue out while eating her om-nom-nom rice. The guy sitting in front of her looks at him with a hint of concern in his eyes.
Is there something wrong, Rose-san? Akari only shrugs it off and replies, Not at all, master. I just accidentally bite my tongue out, that's all, with a timid smile all across her face. They say that if you bite your tongue all of a sudden, it only means that someone is bad-mouthing you right this instance. Akari wasn't so surprised upon hearing it.
She tilted her head to look at her surroundings and instantly spotted her rival Cookie glaring in their direction while muttering something by herself, like a ritual or something. I knew it, Akari says so to herself while keeping a straight face. Anyway, do you feel uncomfortable around me? Akari was stunned for a moment that made her not able to speak for a few seconds. With a slightly wide-eyed expression, she asks, No, master. Why do you ask? Holy crap. Does she look so awkward around him? Is she not being friendly enough? Does she look horrible now? Akari is currently anxious if she would receive a demerit point for not taking care of the guest well enough. After all, Ishida Jin would be paying additional fees for dining with her in this cafe. I just thought so, since you haven't looked me in the eye ever since we started eating, or would only give short replies to my questions. Jin pauses for a moment and stares at her intently, which made Akari feel uncomfortable. And your body's kind of stiff too. Akari can't help but slap herself on the face at the back of her head. She didn't know that this guy could be that observant around her. I saw you moving freely around other customers, so I thought that maybe I am a little bit awkward myself, so you feel uncomfortable around me. Only a few people understand my personality, to be honest. Jin adds, while scratching the back of his neck. Hearing that from him gives Akari the urge to raise her eyebrow at him. This is Ishida Jin we are talking about. Akari would always see him hang out with the rich and popular kids of St. Therese High. They would always laugh together, have lunch together, and play basketball together. Jin was never alone, unlike her. And yet, here he is, talking as if he was treated as an outcast in his past, like she experienced. Sometimes, she can't completely comprehend the way boys think of themselves. But you have many friends, right, master? Akari made sure to ask this question in a tone that won't totally make it obvious that she knows him since childhood. Jin seemed not to notice it and went on. Well, yeah, I do have a lot of friends back in high school and know a few people in my university now. And yet, that still doesn't count. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? Akari pretends to understand all of it, when in reality, she doesn't. Being a loner for almost all her life, until she became Renji's girlfriend back in high school, makes it hard for her to understand all of it. Jin smiles rather bitterly as he lowered his head before proceeding. Sometimes, you only show people your desirable qualities for them to like you, while leaving the unpleasant ones. Oh. Akari didn't mean to speak this out loud, but now, she finally gets what Ishida Jin means. Thinking about it now, that's the kind of life she had lived in high school, and still continues doing it up until now. There's only one person who has seen the real me. But with you, Rose-san. Akari was astonished when Jin suddenly shot his head up, now smiling vibrantly. I don't feel uncomfortable showing you my real side for some unknown reason. So don't feel shy showing your true personality around me as well. That made Akari's eyes slowly widened and her lips parted. Surely, she hasn't seen that kind of smile from him for a very long time. The next day at school, Akari almost flinched backward upon seeing Jin already seated in his chosen seat next to her. After what happened yesterday night, Ishida Jin would be the last person she wanted to see right now. But really, she should get used to seeing him both in school and in the cafe starting from now on. Good morning, Hayashi-san. Jin greeted him with a shy smile painted on his face. Calling her by her last name, huh? A long time ago, they used to call each other by their first names. And Jin would often call her by her nickname to piss her off sometimes if they're alone. Akari's lips were pressed together, not knowing if she needed to greet back or what. In the end, she goes to her seat, places her bag aside, and looks at Jin straight in the face. Good morning, Ishida-kun. After a brief exchange of greetings formally, they haven't talked with each other anymore. Creator's Thoughts. 8 Jans. I tagged this book. Come and support me with a thumbs up. It has exactly been 5 minutes already, and yet their college professor in fundamentals in accounting hasn't arrived yet to start their first period discussion. While everyone was happy about it, Akari can't help but feel more anxious with Jin sitting literally next to her. Come on, what's the teacher taking so long? Akari can't help but complain to herself.
Somebody, please, save me here. I think I'm about to die of anxiety here.
Just then, a girl she didn't know walked near Jin and suddenly called his attention. As Akari looked at this girl a little bit closer, she immediately recognized this girl with the dark brown hair tied into a ponytail and with the bangs, as one of those girls who Honda Yuna later labeled as Daisy and Friends the other day. Seeing that girl glared in her direction for a split second made her look away immediately.
Can I help you?
Being as friendly as ever, Jin entertains this girl.
My name is Kimura Hana, and, can I?
It made Akari almost cringe to her place when this seemingly evil girl suddenly turned out to be the prudent and innocent one, as she fakes her cute, adorable tone in front of this guy. Girls her age are sick nowadays. Jin patiently waits for this girl's reply.
I have trouble solving an equation in our algebra subject.
Can you perhaps help me solve it? Akari decides to sneak a glance at this girl's face to see what it looks like, and immediately regrets it after seeing how Hana gave poor Jin her puppy-look face. She felt as if she was about to puke any minute now.
Oh, sure. No problem. Show me where you are seated, and I'll help you right away.
Jin is now standing up from his seat without having any second thoughts and went straight towards Hana's seat with her, leaving Akari dumbfounded.
Jin, you idiot. Why do you have to be so nice in front of everybody? Damn you.
Huh, I get it. Hana pretending to be cute is like a sword to your eye, am I right? Akari immediately turns his head when Honda Yuna and Suzuki Ryo are now approaching her seat. She can't help but wonder why do they always come here in pairs, though? I saw your horrible expression just now, Yuna added. Akari nods her head in agreement. I don't know why girls have to act like that when they could just be any normal human being, especially around guys.
I know, right? It makes me sick as well.
But Yuna, Suzuki Ryo suddenly chimes into their conversation.
You're not even a girl to begin with.
And before he could even finish his sentence, Honda Yuna had already given him a quick uppercut.
Poor guy,
Akari thought.
Stop talking nonsense, you dummy,
Yuna bellows at him.
And call me by my last name, will you?
To Akari, she says,
I'm happy that someone is finally on the same page as I am right now. I think you and I can be friends. What do you think?
That made Akari truly happy. Who would have thought at this point that having the same impression with other people could earn you a friend? With a broad smile on her face, Akari replies,
I would love to. But I still won't go easy on you regarding academic matters, though.
Eh? That surprised Akari quite a bit, but she only shrugs it off. Yes, if that's what you want. I'm not even competing with you, though. Akari tries to explain herself to this extremely competitive girl in front of her, but only falls in deaf ears in her second attempt. However, she knows that she would eventually get used to it. Hopefully.
Welcome home, master.
After bowing her head, Akari froze for a moment upon seeing Ishida Jin's smiling face as he entered through the door.
Every time he arrives here, he is already in his casual clothes. Like today, for instance.
Ishida Jin wears a plain white shirt, khaki pants that is only a few inches below his knee, and exposes most of his ivory skin from the knee below. Boy, he's sure got flawless legs than me. Akari can't help but have these thoughts inside her head, but immediately stop herself upon realizing that it most certainly sounds creepy just now. Standing at Akari's both sides right now are Kuki and Sakura, wearing the same bright smile as she is also wearing right now. Good even to you all, Jin says to all of them, but to Akari, he says while smiling, Can you please accompany me on my table today? Feeling slightly annoyed for still being in the dark regarding Jin's true intentions, Akari immediately replies to the lad, still with that fake smile of hers.
Of course, master. I would love to.
But it is quite the opposite, though. Akari feels that her life battery would eventually drain and needs recharging anytime soon. Cookie feels annoyed right now as well, along with her current mood, but for another reason, which you already know by now.
Ishida Jin was that hot guy she was bragging to her crewmates about that always coming into this cafe to see her. And now, she still can't accept the fact that he suddenly changed preferences and went with this boring Rose instead. The envious girl eyes her co-worker Rose with jealousy. Sure, she is pretty enough to catch his attention, but when standing next to her, Rose's beauty is nothing compared to hers. Akari, on the other hand, looks at her boss, Ms. Bell, as she silently asks for her help. But the latter only gave her a thumbs up and a sheepish grin while looking at the two of them together on a table. Seeing that her boss is unwilling to help her, Akari only wept in silence,
Soon, all the awkwardness that Akari feels right now vanishes as the speakers placed at each corner of the cafe now plays her favorite song, It's You by Louis Bryce. The intro of the song got Akari suddenly hyped up, forgetting what she felt a moment ago.
Oh my, I love this song.
She suddenly spoke out loud, surprising Jin with a sudden bizarre reaction. That's my favorite too, he says. Akari became anxious right away after knowing what she just did.
People who listen to foreign songs could sometimes be tagged as weird, she thought. But hey, that's what they are promoting in this cafe. Being weird, that is. With an apologetic face, Akari says,
I am so sorry for my sudden reaction, Master, and for being weird out of the blue.
Eventually, Jin finds himself having a lopsided grin on the corner of his lips and looks at the maid in front of him with the same amusement he had earlier. No, don't be. As I said, don't be afraid to show your true self. Then he pauses for a bit, his eyes directly staring right into hers as the song blasts in the background. At least, not in front of me. Jans. If you want, you could try listening to the song It's You by Louis Bryce and tell me if you agree with me if you think it is one of the most romantic songs you have ever heard in your entire life. Have some idea about my story? Comment it and let me know.